Zone Media.
Welcome behind the bastards back to podcast People Bad About Tell All Them You. I'm Robert Evans, with me again for part 2 of our episode on what Peter Thiel thinks about the Antichrist. I'm sorry that's what we're talking about right now.
I love it. We're getting right to the heart of the matter, you know, because people are like, "Do you want to talk about the economy?" And I'm like, "No,
I don't want to talk about the economy. I'm tired of talking about the economy.
Tell me about what these idiots think. Tell me what they believe."
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So here we are.
Sarah Marshall, you got anything you want to plug here at the start before we dive back into it?
Yeah, I have a new podcast about the Satanic Panic and the wackadoo, horrible things that the fear of a Satan who never showed up to the party caused self-described good and law-abiding people to bring about. And it's a sad show. It's a fun show. It's a show about history. It's a show about today. It's called The Devil You Know. It's out right now with CBC Podcasts. And of course, I also host a show called You're Wrong About, and you can listen to that too. And it's, you know, we have fun while trying to get to the bottom of things, much like you do.
Right. We're talking today about Peter Thiel being wrong about something important. And we're also talking about the devil he knows, or at least who he thinks the devil might be.
Yes, his fantasy devil, perhaps.
His fantasy devil. I guarantee you're not going to see where this is building to.
My question is, Sarah, who is your fantasy devil?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Peter Cook and Bedazzled, of course.
Oh, wow. Sarah, you could not have said anything that would have gotten me more on your side than that. I love the original Bedazzled.
Right?
He's the best Satan, easily, by a mile.
Tell me why you think that is. And people haven't seen this movie enough. It's a delight. It's Peter Cook and Dudley Moore.
I respect, both from a theological standpoint and from just an entertainment standpoint, the idea of a devil whose primary focus is not on acts of grand evil, but on acts of like petty annoyance. Like that scene where he's just like casually scratching records and then putting them in the mail is so funny to me.
And there's a scene where he's ripping the last pages out of novels.
Yes. And there's that, I mean, my favorite part, I guess spoilers for the film Bedazzled, which is half a century old.
Yeah, you've had
there's
a long
a great
time to see
scene. There's a great scene where the guy whose soul the devil is trying to win, and he are talking, and the human asks him, like, why did you rebel against God in the first place? It seems like he had a pretty sweet deal. And the devil like gets up on top of I think it's a mailbox or something, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna like walk you through what it was like, back then. I'm God, start praising me. And the guy's like goes around like, I praise you, keep going, keep praising me, and he goes on like this for a while, and eventually the guy's like, hey, can we take a break and maybe I get up there for a minute? And the devil's like, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it plays
good.
on,
it's a good devil.
The feeling that a lot of us have in Sunday school or equivalent, that like, that the character of God in the Bible is insufferable, and I don't know if that plays into our topic today, but I have always noticed it. And I also really love the Cartman Land episode of South Park where Kyle's faith is challenged, and so his parents tell him the story of Job.
That's a
and
blast
he's
from the
like,
past.
why would God do that to a good
why
man?
Is he like this?
And it's like, why would God do that? Because like Satan, you expect to like try and be a trickster, but the fact that God is like, hey, I should ruin this guy's life and see if he still praises me. That's a good use of my time. You're like, the devil comes out looking comparatively good in that story because it's less of a betrayal from him. He's just an asshole.
Yeah. Anyway, watch the original Bedazzled. You don't need to watch the
original Bedazzled,
the one made with Brendan Fraser
podcast.
and Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah, you can watch that one. It's cute. It's fun.
If you want.
But yeah, Peter Cook and Dudley Moore are one of the great comedy duos, and I do feel like the idea of just the trickster devil is so beautifully embodied there. And that it's interesting to me that the devil is kind of the trickster character, and we took the trickster who's necessary in most cosmologies and made him evil,
Crucial
which
part
is a
of
very
society,
different,
really.
a very different role to play.
Yeah. So, I don't know, folks. Watch Bedazzled. It's more biblically accurate than Peter Thiel's lecture on the Antichrist. I'll say that.
There you go.
Yeah.
That feels so true.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year. You can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Life gets messy. Spills, stains, pet accidents, and kid chaos. But with Anabay, cleaning up is easy. Our sofas are fully machine washable, inside and out, so you never have to stress about messes again. Made with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics, that means fewer stains and more peace of mind. Designed for real life, our sofas feature changeable fabric covers, allowing you to refresh your style anytime. Need flexibility? Our modular design lets you rearrange your sofa effortlessly. Perfect for cozy apartments or spacious homes. Plus, they're earth-friendly and built to last. That's why over 200,000 happy customers have made the switch. Upgrade your space today. Sofas start at just $699. Visit washablesofas.com now and bring home a sofa made for life. That's washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Hey, this is U.S. Olympic gold medalist Tara Davis Woodhull.
And I'm U.S. Paralympic gold medalist Hunter Woodhull.
As athletes, our lives are about having a clear path.
And a team that you can absolutely trust.
So when it came to getting the best mortgage,
we chose PennyMac.
PennyMac is proud to be the official mortgage provider of Team USA and you.
Learn more at pennymac.com. PennyMac Loan Services, LLC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS ID 35953. Licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act. Conditions and restrictions may apply.
There's a difference between liking a house and actually getting it. Redfin is built to make up that difference and close the gap between finding and owning the home for you. Redfin agents close twice as many deals as other agents. So when you find a home you love, you're not a step behind when it comes to making an offer. That means less watching great homes disappear and more focus on the one you'll call home. Redfin helps turn saved listings into real addresses. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
So I had planned, Sarah, for us to get through the first one of Peter's, like the notes on his first lecture faster than we did, because we didn't get through that even.
We might have to do like a day-long staged event doing that, like when Andy Kaufman read The Great Gatsby. Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. Or I could just get the Embarcadero to host me while I talk for 4 days about Peter Thiel's lectures on the Antichrist and why they're very silly.
People would go. I would love it.
But we're going to have to cut through the remainder of that first lecture before we get into who he thinks might be the Antichrist. And so when we left off...
I do feel like you've given me a pretty clear sense of how unhinged this whole
good
theology is. Yeah.
I'm glad we at least landed on that. So when we left off with Peter, he was complaining that science promised to make us immortal and it failed to deliver, which it didn't, but nonetheless. Next, Peter says that after the development of the atom bomb, quote, technology itself became apocalyptic. And in 1945, the National Committee on Atomic Information published One World or None, which is generally agreed to have been like the first atomic scare movie. Like this is the first, like, what if a nuclear war movie, right?
Oh, boy.
And the gist of this is that nukes were really dangerous, and the only rational solution to a world in which everyone has nukes is a strong United Nations that can put an end to war and ensure nuclear weapons are never used en masse, right?
Yep.
I think most people would say, like, yeah, it's a pretty reasonable reaction the nukes.
Kind of the theme of a lot of Twilight Zone episodes as well. Pretty reasonable.
Right.
Yeah. Fairly middle of the road concept.
It's also, this is also like a reaction to World War II, where it's like, we should probably have some sort of like international law. So like if a country's doing war crimes, there's some sort of mechanism.
Us, the United States, from doing the things that we will choose to do again.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really do this. The ICC, I mean, we briefly, Serbia, we punish briefly, but that's kind of it, in terms of international law.
Right.
I'm cutting things down a little bit, but we never, this is not a thing that ever really happens, but it is a thing. Peter Thiel is in a lot of ways a very old-fashioned kind of paranoid, the UN is the devil, the antichrist wants the UN to take over the world kind of guy.
He's the Sterling Hayden and Dr. Strangelove kind of a role that's so crucial in American politics.
And Dr. Strangelove is going to come up in a little bit here. You're going to hear what Peter thinks about that movie.
Oh, no.
But it's not, it is... He tries to dress it up because he knows that, like, well, cranks are the guys who think that any reasonable person can be like, well, the UN never came even anywhere close to being a one world government. Like, at no point did it have even a fraction of that much power, obviously.
And if it did, then, they would have solved more problems, you would think.
Maybe things would be better. Peter is that kind of a crank, but he doesn't want you to think about that. So he has to dress this up in like theological terms and shit.
He can't just be the guy down at the feed store. Because really he's like, Dale from King of the Hill, but he has to make it seem important.
Right. And so he says that, this movie, One World or None, was the birth of when we started seeing technology itself as like apocalyptic, right? And this is bad because Peter is blaming basically the fact that we don't make scientific advancements anymore on this train of thinking that starts, with this nuclear paranoia of this idea that like, well, technology's bad. And that's why we're not progressing technologically.
Of course.
And I feel like I've explained enough why this is all nonsense.
Yeah. Also, from a film history perspective, that's even wrong. Because like, what do you call Metropolis, baby?
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Sure.
Seriously.
Yeah. I mean, the movie and the book, but yeah. There's so much we could critique about this, but I need to read you this next line. Coincidentally, this is also when the Catholic Church stopped giving apocalyptic sermons. Did it? Is that true? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because my dad was Catholic. I didn't only go to Catholic church, but I went to Catholic church a good amount as a little kid. And I remember the priest talking about the end times and the second coming. It wasn't the only thing. That's certainly not as much of a focus in Catholicism as it is in a lot of like evangelical Christian sects, but it's not talked about.
He's like, Catholics aren't talking about it constantly, and therefore they're not doing it at all.
Yeah, and like, I guess my citation here is like, I went to church as a kid. What the fuck are you basing this on, Peter? Like, that's just not true. And it's also like, well, Catholicism's just one chunk of Christianity, and a lot of Christian faiths and priests and pastors over the last 75, 80 years have talked about the apocalypse in different ways. It's a common subject. This whole pillar of his belief system, which is that people don't really talk about the Antichrist or the apocalypse anymore outside of technology causing it.
Right.
Is like, no?
It's like in the late 20th century, people talked about it, an unbelievable amount and like pretty consistently. And it's right. It just feels like he's arguing whatever he feels like he needs to in order to justify the point he wants to make thing by thing.
Yeah. His issue is that like all of the people who are pushing these secular apocalyptic fears about like fertility collapsing or bioweapons or AI are kind of playing into the real Antichrist, because the Antichrist wants to stop technological progress, right? That's the argument he's making. Yes.
Fascinating. The Antichrist is Amish.
Yeah, or a Luddite, right? Now, Peter, the other thing, I mean, and that's really what he believes. He does believe the Antichrist is a Luddite, and he also misunderstands Luddites, whatever.
Of course, yeah.
He goes on, he's angry that he doesn't like secular apocalyptic fears. And he complains, he lists that like, oh, regular people, when they talk about the apocalypse, they're always worried about like nukes or biological weapons or AI or, the children of men fertility collapse. And that's really incomplete. Quote, we should add the risk of the biblical antichrist manifesting as a one world government. Here, the secular maps neatly onto the theological, the one world state of the antichrist on the other hand, and the no world of Armageddon. And like, first off, that's not really a risk because like no reasonable person thinks a one world government is anywhere close to a reality.
I mean,
it's just not a realistic fear. Like, even if that was a bad thing, it's not a realistic fear looking at the world today.
Yeah.
And the whole, this idea that like, oh, the secular maps onto the theological, you've got the one world state of the Antichrist and then the no world of Armageddon. And like, those things only map neatly if you're an idiot. One world or none is arguing in favor of a strong UN and a strong international criminal court to stop world leaders from doing crimes against humanity. That's not a one world state. Like the movie that he argues for is not advocating a one world state, and neither are most people who want a stronger UN or ICC. Basically 0% of people, including me, who support a stronger ICC, want a one world state. You just want there to be punishments for genocide, right?
Right. And in this case, it feels like people, including Peter Thiel in this case, are bending themselves into pretzels to justify their desire to get to kill whoever they want and call it morally good.
Yeah. And I think with Peter, because I don't think Peter's specifically all that motivated to kill specific groups of people, but I think Peter sees if there's an international criminal court, if there's a higher international law of any kind, then that means I'm bound by law somewhere.
Right.
And that's wrong. That's fundamentally wrong for anyone to be able to punish me, Peter Thiel, or hold me accountable for any of my actions whatsoever. That's the worst thing that can happen.
Because I'm baby, but I'm also the most powerful person in the world, or I should be.
And I should be because of how smart I am.
But also, who will stop me? Someone please stop me.
Right.
No one stop me.
Yeah, fucking Peter. So this next paragraph is, I've said this several times, this is where things get really crazy, but this is where things get really crazy.
This is where things get really crazy? It's been really crazy.
It's been pretty crazy, but it's about to be crazier. We should at least suspect that the apocalypse in our newspaper headlines is the apocalypse of the Bible. This is not mysticism, but simple extrapolation of human nature. Wisdom has not increased, even if information has. The one point on which the atheist and fundamentalist agree is that violence comes from God. The Christian, however, knows it comes from man. I know, right? What the fuck are you? Wait, Peter, what?
Yeah, what are we saying?
I think, let me tell you what I think he's arguing here. I think he's saying that atheists, obviously fundamentalists, believe that everything comes from God, so that includes all violence. Atheists blame all violence on religion. Right?
That makes sense when you put it that way.
I was an angry atheist. I'm not an angry atheist anymore. I'm still more or less an atheist. I've never met an atheist who thinks all violence is caused by religion.
Right.
I've never met a one. That's a crazy thing to believe.
There's certainly capitalism looking at you, kid, and a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, some dude like murdering his wife because he doesn't want to pay alimony. That's not God. That kind of stuff happens. Like a rapist committing rape isn't like God didn't make him do that, right? Like obviously there's rapists who do it through
of just sort of male entitlement and just there's.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like this is the kind of writing where it's like you have to kind of simplify everything into an either or. It feels like which again is very 8th grade, and
it is very like it's like how a 12-year-old debate bro Christian kid talks about when I was a 12-year-old right-wing debate bro. This is how I thought about atheism, right? But it's like a straw man that an adult wouldn't have.
You would hope
it's
not.
Such an absurd idea. But both the atheist and the fundamentalist believe all violence comes from God. Counterpoint. No?
It's like, you've never talked to an atheist. I mean,
No one thinks that. I don't even think, I guess like fundamentalists would argue that everything comes from God or whatever. So, but like even then, I think very few of them would phrase it that way, even of the religious fundamentalists that I know. That's just a weird way to phrase anything. Like you're
well, in any argument based on there being like a few key groups of people who all think the same thing as each other.
They all think
never,
this. Exactly. And it's this, Weirdly enough, this sentence, of all of the reading I've done on Peter Thiel, and I have read extensively, I've read most of the interviews he's done over the years. I've read a lot of his own writing.
You've been through a lot.
This is the thing that scares me most. This scares me more than any of his anti-democratic polemics where he's talking about the need for a dictatorship, because the fact that he would think this and say this is evidence that there is a disconnect in his mind between what he thinks people believe and actual humanity. And that disconnect is it's very upsetting to me. Like, that's scary how disconnected he is from reality, I would say. I am upset by this.
Yeah.
Now, from here, Peter argues that if we're heading for war or Armageddon, then it's not if it's reasonable to think that there might be an apocalyptic war, right? Then it's not unreasonable to worry that an antichrist might rise to power, promising to end wars and bring stability back, right? If it's reasonable to say we might have a war that ends humanity, it's got to be reasonable also to say that the antichrist might rise to power, promising to stop that war, right? Both of those are logical things, and let's give him that. That's a nonsense point in and of itself, but let's pretend that makes sense.
But sure, whatever.
Peter somehow doesn't draw a connection from that to an antichrist might rise to power, promising to stop World War III, to the fact that Donald Trump, who he supported, got elected, promising to stop, literally saying, I will avoid World War III. If you vote for me, we won't have World War III, but Kamala will lead us there. Or Biden will lead us there. That literally is directly what Trump said. I'm not editorializing in any way.
Oh, I know.
You know this, Peter, right? Anyway, Peter just doesn't deal with this.
He's like,
instead,
who's
he
to
focuses.
Say?
Right. Who's to say this thing that actually happened obviously isn't relevant?
But let's talk about how scary it would be if it happened in an imaginary way, so we can ignore the real way that it did just happen.
Yeah.
Won't that be fun?
The Bible literally says that many Christians, many believers will be tricked by the Antichrist when he rises to power, promising to fix a lot of this shit. And Peter, literally believe the Antichrist will rise to power, promising to stop World War III. Donald Trump rose to power, promising to stop World War III. Obviously, none of this is worth talking about. Completely irrelevant. Instead, Peter now talks about two different, 80-year-old novels about the Antichrist from, the early 20th century, both of which he brings these. He summarizes them. I don't think we even need to talk about the novels because what he's pointing out is that both of these novels about the Antichrist and most Antichrist narratives all have a plot hole, which is that they don't explain how the Antichrist will actually seize power. Quote, which is a weird thing to care about. Anyway, whatever. In late modernity, we finally have the answer to how the Antichrist will rise to power by talking constantly of Armageddon, or in secular terms, of existential risk. He, the Antichrist, rides the wave of apocalyptic anxiety. Oppenheimer lamented, we need new knowledge like we need a hole in the head. Nick Bostrom has proposed preventative policing and global compute governance in his vulnerable world hypothesis. Eliezer Yudkowsky's latest book is, if anyone builds it, everyone dies. And Peter is saying all three of these guys are potential antichrists or servants of the Antichrist, right? Because they're spreading, as he gives this lecture series that's entirely about his apocalyptic beliefs, he's saying these guys who are talking about Armageddon are all clearly agents of the Antichrist, if not the Antichrist themselves, because no one else would talk about the Antichrist and the apocalypse so much.
Except him,
as he talks about the apocalypse. Except him. It's fine with him. Right?
And this whole thing is built on paradoxes because it's we have to avoid a one world government by giving all of our power to a dictator who will protect us from another dictator, you know?
And it's the funniest thing to me. We'll get to his other Antichrist. The fact that he's Eliezer Yudkowsky, maybe an Antichrist, right? Certainly an agent of the Antichrist.
Certainly.
And Yudkowsky, we've made fun of him on this show a lot, right? He's an AI risk dude. And obviously I don't like AI. I don't, but not because Yudkowsky is a rationalist who believes he's a member of a cult, kind of the leader of a cult based on these deranged ideas of rationality. And he thinks AI is dangerous because AI will become a god and it will, any AI god we create will inevitably want to kill us all. Right.
I mean, it's dangerous enough in terms of taking all our jobs. We can just start with that. Yeah.
No. he's not one of the it'll take our jobs thing. He doesn't care about artists making a living. Yudkowsky cares about like, he believes that the Harlan Ellison short story, I have no mouth and I must scream. That's what he literally thinks AI will do, right?
But before that, it'll take our jobs.
It'll take our jobs, exactly. And it's fun because, like, Peter Thiel funded Yudkowsky in his early career, his like rationalism and stuff. Like, Peter gave this guy money and supported the growth of like the rationalist subculture in the Bay Area.
And then he was like, wait, no, not that.
No. Yeah. He says in this lecture that he thinks Yudkowsky is deranged now because Yudkowsky's anti-AI.
So he has a former mentee who then takes his ideas in a direction he doesn't like. And he's like, that guy could be the Antichrist. I mean, if nothing else, doesn't this story make you feel better about your own beefs, you know?
Yeah, I do kind of think Garrison might be the Antichrist, you know, my protege, one-time protege. But yeah, that's separate.
No. One's protege could always be the Antichrist.
I mean, Sophie, it's certainly not impossible.
Garrison is a perfect angel.
Sophie is the one you least suspect, you know, when you think about it. So...
Yeah, it could be Sophie. It could be Sophie. I've accepted that a while ago.
I think it's Paul Pierce. Anyways,
you think it's Paul Pierce?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Why not? So this is kind of where I've decided to get into the most publicized feature of Peter's Antichrist lectures, which is his predictions as to what modern people might be the Antichrist in disguise. So obviously, Yudkowsky, you know, is at least in consideration.
Guy I've never heard of, obviously.
Right. This guy must be it. And Peter not only hates Yudkowsky, he feels the need to analyze him as a possible Antichrist because Yudkowsky's main claim to fame now is he's trying to like warn people about AI and stop AI development. And AI is the only thing that could give Peter a return on his financial investment commensurate to what he thinks he deserves. So obviously. Yudkowsky's evil for trying to stop this stuff, you know?
Can we also appreciate that, like, even if you're, you know, like, I don't think that the kind of person who wants to go to a 4-part lecture series on the Antichrist is like my kind of person. But even so, I do feel like you would assume you were in for something different than a guy being like, here are people I don't like personally and why I think they're the Antichrist. Like, that's taking it to another level. You're like, oh, gee, I just expected a PowerPoint.
That's what we're doing. Yeah. And it's because basically Peter's primary claim here is that the Antichrist is anyone warning people about the apocalypse and trying to save the world. If that's not the Antichrist, that's an agent of the Antichrist. But except for me. Except for me, obviously. Course. And Donald Trump, you know.
Yeah.
So here's a quote from his first lecture. My thesis is that in the 17th and 18th century, the Antichrist would have been a Dr. Strangelove, a scientist who did all this sort of crazy evil science. In the 21st century, the Antichrist is a Luddite who wants to stop all science. It's someone like Greta or Eliezer Yudkowsky. So he's Greta Thunberg. He says he specifically, and he'll go in later and be like, I don't think Yudkowsky is. He definitely thinks Greta Thunberg might be the Antichrist. He very directly is clear about that. He thinks Greta Thunberg could be the Antichrist.
What is it about her that so unnerves tyrants? I mean, I guess the fact that she's, you know, very smart and impossible to corrupt. Yeah, the truth.
She's speaking
Nothing
the truth to power. She's proved to. I mean, honestly, like I've been just shocked at how continually good her takes have been. Just because, like, anytime someone gets famous, that young. Like, you expect, okay, at some point they're going to like either buy into a conspiracy theory or get something weird. And she's just like really consistently got a great head on her shoulders.
Yeah.
And so that scares the hell out of them.
Yeah. Right. And can't be convinced to look away, which I do feel like, you know, everything you've been talking about, I mean, we've been joking about it, but so much of it is like, what in the world is that thing? Look away. Let me do a little sleight of hand over here. It's just parlor tricks.
I think fundamentally why he hates her and why she is hated by a lot of these guys so much is not that they're scared of the because obviously she doesn't have any power. Right. She's like somewhat influential, but she's not going to throw Peter Thiel in prison or destroy. She simply does not have the power.
She's
right?
not a corporation. She's just a person with morals. Yeah.
She's just a person with morals and basically zero real world power.
Yeah.
But she is emblematic and embodies a fact, which is that I'm not a believer in, justice will win out. The arc of history bends towards, I think that's a silly stance. But inevitably, in the future, if there are people, they will realize that Peter Thiel and all of his ilk during this period of time were deranged monsters who destroyed the environment and who fought viciously against any attempts to reduce the harm humanity was doing to the biosphere in order to make themselves wealthier. And they will be hated as a result. That's just a fact.
But not by
just
that
based
many
on
people, because so many people will have died as a direct result of their actions and inactions.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Greta represents the reality that in the future, these people they won't be able to, especially after they're dead, keep up the lie that they were fighting against all this disinformation from the left and pretend, the climate change fake. That lie won't hold up at a certain point.
Well, and that they're working so hard to create a mythology where the story changes every day based on what needs to be true for them to be right, and that kind of mythology won't perpetuate itself forever and keep protecting them. Yeah.
Exactly. There will be a future in which the bullshit that they have spent their lives propping up is not widely believed. And that doesn't mean it'll be a perfect future or even a more just future. It just means that in the future, people will know what a scumbag Peter was. And that's why he is so scared and hateful of her, right? I think that's it.
Yeah. And also that he's going to die and other people will continue to live and sail around. Yep.
He's going to die probably sooner than he expects, like most people. And a lot of folks are going to be happy because it'll be good when he dies. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of death, advertisements are a kind of death. That's what in French, the word for advertisement means the little death.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Time for a sofa upgrade? Introducing Anabay Sofas, where designer style meets budget-friendly prices. Anabay brings you the ultimate in furniture innovation with a modular design that allows you to rearrange your space effortlessly. Perfect for both small and large spaces, Anabay is the only machine-washable sofa inside and out. Say goodbye to stains and messes with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics that make cleaning easy. Liquids simply slide right off. Designed for custom comfort, our high-resilience foam lets you choose between a sink-in feel or a supportive memory foam blend. Plus, our pet-friendly, stain-resistant fabrics ensure your sofa stays beautiful for years. Don't compromise quality for price. Visit washablesofas.com to upgrade your living space today. Sofas start at just $699 with no risk returns and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get up to 60% off plus free shipping and free returns. Shop now at washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Hey, this is U.S. Olympic gold medalist Tara Davis Woodhull.
And I'm U.S. Paralympic gold medalist Hunter Woodhull.
As athletes, our lives are about having a clear path.
And a team that you can absolutely trust.
So when it came to getting the best mortgage,
we chose PennyMac.
PennyMac is proud to be the official mortgage provider of Team USA and you.
Learn more at pennymac.com. PennyMac Loan Services, LLC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS ID 35953. Licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act. Conditions and restrictions may apply.
This week on Point Game with me, CJ Toledano, and Isaiah Thomas, it was our special live show, and IT let us know who he thinks would win if they did a 1v1 tournament during All-Star Weekend. Take a listen. Okay, so here's an event, I think, and it's been brought up a bunch that I think could fix All-Star Weekend, one-on-one tournament.
Yeah.
Who do you think is winning that tournament?
Kevin Durant.
Still, right now.
Yeah.
But what about like a smaller guard like yourself?
Yeah, nobody's fucking with me though. That's one thing I do. One-on-one shit, I do that. Yeah. You can ask anybody, any team I've been on after practice, come over and get this ass whooping if you want. Yeah, we're playing ones after every practice.
Well, do you have any legendary one-on-one?
No, ask my teammates about the legendary one-on-ones. Don't ask me, they know.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code POINTGAME. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly with code POINTGAME. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-78-977-77 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
And we're back. Yes. Talking about my flawless knowledge of French and talking about Peter Thiel's belief that fucking Greta Thunberg is the antichrist. So
perfect.
Let's talk about this from a theological standpoint, because one thing the book of Daniel is pretty clear about vis-a-vis the antichrist is that the antichrist is a political leader of some sort. Okay. He is described repeatedly as a prince or a king. Now, I could see being like, well, obviously, that's if we're going with the Bible is true, but not always literally, you know, these are apocryphal stories. Okay, a king could be a stand-in for a president or a senator, sure. Mm-hmm. But a young lady who sometimes tries to deliver food on a boat, there's no way to like describe Greta Thunberg as a king or a prince.
Yeah.
Same with Eliezer Yudkowsky. Like, they're not political leaders, and the Antichrist definitely is. Like, again, Peter's selective embrace of literal readings of the Bible here really biting him in the ass.
You're like, it's all very literal unless I need it to being so figurative that it completely goes in a new direction. Thank you.
I also love his fundamental, like, oh, you don't understand Dr. Strangelove, like the movie, at all. Because the idea that, like, well, in the 17th or 18th century, the Antichrist would have been Dr. Strangelove, right?
I know.
Like, well, no.
Such a random
Dr.
reference.
Strangelove.
Yeah.
Right. For one thing, like, in the movie of the same name, he's not a political leader. He's the president's scientific advisor. And he's not responsible for the apocalypse.
Right.
At least not primarily, right? Now, the same actor,
he's mainly
Peter
delivering
Sellers,
exposition. Right.
Exactly. Yes. And like, it is true. Peter Sellers also plays the president, right? He plays Dr. Strangelove and the president that Strangelove is advising.
Yeah.
But even if you're saying, well, that means they're the same person, that does Peter Sellers as the president being the Antichrist doesn't make sense in that movie. Because like,
it's just embarrassing to misremember a movie in your big speech.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
Like, you could rewatch it. You're writing a 4-part lecture series, man.
Also, in the 17th century, the Antichrist would not have been a character from a 1960s movie, but it would have been the Antichrist, just like the devil's kid or whatever.
Yeah, it would have been a king or something.
Like in the Bible, a text people knew better than a movie that wouldn't come out for 300 years.
I also think, again, maybe he hasn't even seen the movie, because it sounds like Peter thinks Dr. Strangelove causes the apocalypse in the movie Dr. Strangelove.
He's like, well, it's about an atomic bomb, and it's called Dr. Strangelove, so probably Dr. Strangelove made the bomb, obviously. I mean, I didn't have time to watch it, but I deduced it because I'm so smart.
That must be what happens. And like, no, for the record, if you haven't seen it, Dr. Strangelove is a mad scientist and a Nazi.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. There's a crazed U.S. general who launches the initial nuclear strike. And
who's
then,
as American as can be.
Right. And like the government, like we try to reach out to the USSR in our bunker and are like, these are where the missiles are coming in. You know, you can shoot them out of the sky. Like, please, we don't want to actually have a nuclear war. This is a fuck up.
Yeah.
And the USSR is like, oh, well, we actually built a doomsday device that will go off automatically and we can't stop it.
Whoops.
Right.
Right. And the premise is like, what if an American general lost his mind and there weren't adequate safeguards in place before he could cause mutually assured destruction? And it's like, oh, yeah, I guess, I mean, that's certainly not a problem we're having now.
Right, exactly. Certainly no more relevant now than it was back then. But it's like neither the president nor Dr. Strangelove are Antichrist figures. No one really is in the movie Dr. Strangelove, actually.
No, they're not.
Like, but it's particularly weird to say Dr. Strangelove is the Antichrist because he doesn't incite the action. Like, that just isn't accurate.
Have you ever seen, because, you know, The Omen has 2 sequels. And they're not that good.
Oh, God,
but
it does.
The second one has Sam Neill in it, and he plays the adult Damien, and he's, like, taken over the world, and he's all charismatic, and I think in politics, and dating a newscaster lady.
Yeah.
But the movie, like, doesn't really know what to have him be doing, because it is, like, what would the Antichrist believe? Like, what would his whole deal be? You know? Like, people are kind of, like, reluctant to state that.
Yeah.
And so it's like you get to sort of align it with whatever, you know, people already find threatening at that time, which, you know, hence all the Obama stuff.
Right. Exactly. So the fact that, you know, he's listed Greta Thunberg and Elisa Yudkowsky as possible Antichrist, both of those things are insane. At least Thunberg, she is like popular. She has a lot of like followers and people who care about what she says. Elisa Yudkowsky, he's got his little cult, but he's not. You think he's got the juice to even be on the list of potential antichrists? You're vastly overestimating this man's charisma.
Right.
This weirdo's charisma.
He's not even in the top 1,000.
No. I am a more realistic antichrist than fucking Elisa
Yudkowsky. I put
Yudkowsky.
Jeb Bush way ahead of him, honestly.
Yes, Jeb is much closer. So after this, in the second lecture, Peter apparently goes into more detail about his beliefs on the Antichrist. Per The Guardian, quote, Thiel goes on to identify the legionnaires of the Antichrist as people like Elisa Yudkowsky, Nick Bostrom, and Greta Thunberg who argue for world government to stop science. So that's at least a little more realistic. He's like, well, maybe they're not the Antichrist, but they're at least his legionnaires.
Oh, my God.
Okay, man. And again, I shouldn't have to say neither Yudkowsky nor Thunberg nor Bostrom want to stop all science, right? They both have specific issues.
For that.
Exactly. They're very specific issues with specific technologies. But Peter can't stand that because, again, they'll get in the way of his profit, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's really what this comes down to. It's very banal, but that is the truth of it. Peter goes on to say, the legionaries of the Antichrist, like Elisa Yudkowsky, Nick Bostrom, and Greta Thunberg, argue for world government to stop science. The Antichrist has somehow become anti-science. And no, they just don't. When the Washington Post reached out to Yudkowsky for a statement, he replied, my understanding is that authorities from multiple Christian denominations have stated that Thiel's views, identifying the Antichrist with proposals to regulate the AI industry, are not deemed by them to be compatible with conventional Christian belief. And it's one of his few statements that I'm like, yeah, that's a good response.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing about standing next to someone who's completely off their cracker. You get to seem a little bit more normal.
Seem much more reasonable. Now, I will say Greta's response was much better because her spokespeople, whoever the Post reached out to on her team, didn't comment, which is the best response to Peter Thiel declaring you the Antichrist or one of his legionaries. It's just don't. What are you gonna say?
You really shouldn't have to issue a statement saying you're not the Antichrist whenever someone accuses you of it, or else, no one would ever get anything done in this country.
I guess I feel like if I was in that boat, I would be like, yes, Peter, I am the Antichrist, and I'm coming for your soul, buddy. Like, I talked with the devil, and we have a plan for you. You don't even know how we're ensnaring you. We got you, baby.
Yeah.
We got you. Now, at the same time, in his second lecture, Peter talks about his Luddite Antichrist candidates. Like, right while he's doing that, he floats another name as a potential Antichrist, briefly, before kind of explaining why he doesn't think this guy's the Antichrist. And that name is Mark Andreessen. Now, Mark Andreessen is the co-founder of Andreessen Horowitz. He is a fellow big tech AI venture capitalist ghoul. And actually, I'd be like, yeah, Mark Andreessen, not a bad Antichrist candidate. He is evil. But Peter hates him not because he's a monster trying to destroy all art and human culture and replace it with AI slop, which is literally what Mark Andreessen wants, right? That's his stated goal. Mark is the author of something called the Techno-Optimist Manifesto, which argues that AI will solve all problems, including like climate change. All of our serious life-threatening issues will be solved by a superintelligent AI. Therefore, anyone who tries to slow or stop AI development is evil and needs to be destroyed. Killed if necessary is what is insinuated heavily, not directly stated, but like anything you can do to stop the people who are anti-AI is justified because they're trying to kill God, you know? That's Mark Andreessen.
Great.
And
a lot of really well-balanced people with a lot of power in this world is what I'm learning more and more.
Sane billionaires, all of them sane. And it's funny to me that as nuts as he is about this, Peter recognizes how crazy Mark is, because his issue with Mark Andreessen is that he's putting out gobbledygook AI propaganda.
Fair enough.
And this is, I mean, weirdly, he is, because, yeah, I think his issue is Yudkowsky's anti-AI stuff is that it will inevitably become a god that's evil. And Andreessen is just like the opposite, where he's like, it will inevitably become a god, but good, right? And so I guess Peter rejects both of them.
Yeah.
But he says this when he brings up Mark in the context of the Antichrist. It's not Andreessen, by the way. I think Andreessen is not the Antichrist because, you know, the Antichrist is popular.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That is some funny shade.
But I thought I'd say his name and the word Antichrist in the same sentence several times.
Yeah. I didn't need to bring it up, right? Next, he goes on to Bill Gates, who he notes, you know, it's reasonable to put him on the list, but he thinks Gates is ultimately unlikely to be the Antichrist, even though he describes him as a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type character whose positive public face is just a mask. Quoth Peter, I saw the Mr. Hyde version about a year ago, where it was just a nonstop Tourette's yelling swear words, almost incomprehensible what was going on. And I don't have trouble believing that Bill Gates is a dick.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. Peter, I'll give you that. I don't have trouble believing he's a Jekyll and Hyde. Clearly, his wife left after the Epstein stuff for a good reason, you know? Now, as I noted, reporters with The Guardian, namely Joanna Boyan, Derek Kerr, and Nick Robbins-Early, actually got all 7 hours of Peter's Antichrist lectures and listened to them, which I have not been able to do yet. Yeah. Maybe one day. And on the subject of Bill Gates and their article, they write something very funny. Ultimately, Thiel concedes Gates cannot be the Antichrist, bringing up the topic more than once. He's not that's so funny. He really is stuck on that. He's not a political leader. He's not broadly popular. And again, perhaps to Gates's credit, he's still stuck in the 18th century alongside people like Richard Dawkins, who believe that science and atheism are compatible.
What?
And that's fundamentally, he believes, because being anti-science is what makes you the Antichrist. So that must mean that you can't be pro-science and not Christian.
Okay.
It's actually impossible.
Walk it off.
This is where we get into
Peter.
This is disordered thinking. This is like, there's something actually wrong here.
This is like if he weren't a billionaire, his family would be like, hey, buddy, do you want to, should we try a new medication for you, bud?
Yeah.
You want to go feed some squirrels?
Yeah, something to take your mind off the crazy.
Why don't we put this manifesto in the drawer?
Yeah, we'll come back to this tomorrow, Peter. Maybe we'll keep working on this.
Yeah. Why don't we have some hot soup?
Yeah, some soup, maybe a cup of coffee, maybe some tea. Caffeine's probably bad for you right now, huh?
Just get off this Antichrist thing for a while.
You've been screaming about Bill Gates for 45 minutes.
Yeah, but I guess part of the great American dream of becoming a billionaire is that no one can tell you how crazy you sound, That's
the whole, and that's part of why they're angry at the people they're angry at.
Yeah.
Now, doing a bit more research around this area makes it very clear why Peter Thiel hates Bill Gates so much, aside from the fact that Gates seems to annoy a lot of people in general by being a dick.
Microsoft Word had some, some tricky areas, let's say.
Sure, yeah. But it can't just be that, because Thiel is friends with Elon Musk. So the fact that Bill Gates is just an asshole can't explain it, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think I figured out what it is, which is that Bill Gates has made a big public show of wanting to give away and convince other billionaires to give away most of their fortunes before they die, right?
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, without which I would not have probably gotten to hear Morning Edition for many years.
There you go. Yeah, my ex-wife wouldn't have had a laptop in elementary school, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's really his issue with Gates. And I think that in part because of what I found in a Washington Post article, because the Post also got access to the tapes, and an article by Natasha Tiki, Elizabeth Dwashkin, and Garrett DeVink. They wrote this. The investor, Thiel, said he recently encouraged Musk to renege on his 2012 commitment to the Giving Pledge movement co-founded by Gates, which asks wealthy people to commit the majority of their fortune to charitable causes, according to the recordings. And this is Thiel here. $200 billion, if you're not going to be careful, is going to left-wing nonprofits that are going to be chosen by Bill Gates, Thiel said. He warned Musk, according to the recording, painting the philanthropist as among the malevolent forces besetting technologists. So that's his hatred of Gates. Gates wants billionaires to give away their money to these evil left-wing causes, and he convinces Musk to stop.
He funded too many modern dance troupes, therefore antichrist. It's like you need to have higher standards for your antichrist behavior, I gotta say.
Yeah, and it does, Thiel's positive on Musk now, I think because Musk is useful. He also, in this lecture series, has nice things to say about J.D. Vance, whose political career he paid to get off the ground.
Yeah.
Per Maggie Dupree, writing for Futurism, Thiel, quote, described himself as very pro Vice President J.D. Vance, to whom Thiel has given millions in campaign funds.
Though he did express that he's
concerned. Yeah. He did express that he's concerned the VP, who's Catholic, might give too much credence to the Pope. The place that I would worry about is that he's too close to the Pope, said Thiel, per The Guardian. And so we have all these reports of fights between him and the Pope. I hope there are a lot more. And that's my issue with J.D. Vance is that he might be a papist. Okay, great.
Well, we've gone back to Puritanism in this country. We have to worry about papistry now on top of everything else. It's also like, I mean, look, I don't believe in antichrist stuff. I never have. I'm not a devil believer, but which is part of my interest in the satanic panic, which it just seems like extra wild when you're not afraid of Satan yourself. I grew up afraid of a lot of things. I was afraid of the Bermuda Triangle, but I wasn't afraid of Satan because that just didn't seem relevant to my life.
It's not a real thing.
But if I were to pick an antichrist today, it would obviously be Trump. Like, he's really behaving very antichristy. And it's just so funny to have him leading a party that has become so much about, this kind of death cult and Armageddonism. And they're like, but not you, sir. And it's like, but just look at him.
Not the obvious guy. Yeah. And it's, again, even the things you name in this are clearly more relevant to Trump than fucking Greta Thunberg or whatever.
I mean.
Now, outside of this frankly unhinged lecture series, back in June, Peter gave an interview to Ross Douthat, whatever however you say his fucking last name, at the New York Times. And Ross is one of the worst writers alive. He used to be the senior editor of The Atlantic, and I think he might be the most up his own ass conservative writer in the country. He was Bill Kristol's replacement, and a massive downgrade from Bill Kristol even. He's both entirely uncritical of big tech and pro everyone should be religious, and so he and Peter Thiel are peas in a pod. And during that interview, Ross asks what Peter thinks about the Techno-Optimist Manifesto that Mark Andreessen self-published in 2023. And again, that's basically saying we have to accelerate at all costs the growth of AI because it will solve all of our problems. So slowing things down is the same as committing mass murder.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
think of all the Studio Ghibli-esque portraits of your husband that will never be drawn.
Exactly. It's a fate worse than death for all of us. And the fact that the document is generally considered to be a foundational text for effective accelerationism, that's kind of the philosophical name for what Andreessen is preaching. And that's close to what Peter Thiel advocates, because he's literally arguing that Greta Thunberg might be the Antichrist, or is at least furthering the Antichrist agenda because she's skeptical about AI and fossil fuels and shit.
Then I'm the Antichrist too. Congratulations to me.
like Thiel definitely thinks the same way, but I think he's incapable. I think why he has to reject Andreessen is that he can't speak positively about a peer with the same ideas if they put those ideas down first.
Yeah.
And so he says this about the essay. It represents a kind of corporate utopianism. In the 1990s, there was a broad cultural optimism that technology would solve everything. But by 2025, that optimism has shrunk. Today's visions are narrower, less inclusive, and less confident. The grand utopian projects have given way to incremental gains, overshadowed by fears of collapse.
Oh.
And that's accurate, but like the problem, again, he's not capable of like looking what he's literally saying. Mm-hmm. The visions are narrower. The optimism has shrunk. That doesn't mean that, like, we're not making technological progress, but it does mean that, like, there's a problem in how people are visualizing progress. Right. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like perhaps people are more pessimistic and perhaps even more reasonable because of how horrible everything's been for the last 30 years.
Exactly.
I realized that in the 90s, it was a utopian time when Starbucks had like big upholstered chairs in them and you could sit there for a long time and you could buy your Nora Jones CDs. But that's over, man.
Yeah. Right. And the article is just a great example. There's so much. Ross just lets Peter say nonsense without ever questioning him. It's like it's one of the worst interviews I've ever read.
It's like he's accidentally a great interviewer by being a terrible interviewer because he just lets him say stupid stuff.
You do get more out. There's no, like, Peter drops the line again. He makes the claim that, like, after 1945, churches stopped preaching end times sermons, and, like, question, Peter. No, they didn't.
Really? Where did all those Left Behind movies come from?
The Left Behind books. Massively popular, Peter. Like, and had nothing to do with technology, by the way. That's not how surveillance tech, I guess, but the Antichrist doesn't rise to power on the back of fears about fucking AI or whatever. Anyway, I don't know how Peter can think this true. I don't know how Ross can't question any of this other than Ross is just like the fucking bootlickeriest bootlicker who ever licked a goddamn boot.
It's like, I hear you got some good blood for me later on.
Right. One of the weirdest things to me here is that, like, Ross is theoretically a Christian. He's a big C.S. Lewis fan. Yeah. And Peter is theoretically a Christian. But then in this interview, Peter describes the choice presented by the Bible in the book of Revelations as Antichrist or Armageddon, and that this is unacceptable, and thus, quote, we must find a third path, right?
And it's me.
Which is like, no, it doesn't. That's not, like, for one thing, the Bible doesn't present a choice. It just says there's an Antichrist, and that leads to the second coming and an Armageddon.
And everything's going to get all weird, and then people are going to get up out of their graves. It's going to be wacky, you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like you have an option to change that if you're going to believe it. You have to just, like, you know, God knows no one has ever been selective about their beliefs as a Christian.
Yeah. It's this, both that, like, Ross doesn't question Peter on this.
Yeah.
And also, this is so heretical. Like, I'm not I don't care personally, but, like, you should.
But don't you think that it's, like, weirdly become, like, a tenet of modern sort of American, I don't know, like, political Protestantism, I guess, that, like, we allow people a much freer hand in terms of doing their own interpretations than...
Absolutely.
Yeah, it seems like things have gotten a little bit over the top.
I mean, and that is definitely true, that, like, that's a major factor in, like, the birth of Protestantism, right? Is this idea, this ongoing thing that, like, well, anyone can be a priest or a pastor, anyone can speak the word, right? And, like,
anyone
winding the
can
circle
speak
of the
in
people,
tongues at a certain point if they feel like it.
Anyone can interpret the Bible, sure, but even so, it is kind of very fundamentally heretical to be like, the Bible says we have to choose between, you know, the Antichrist or the apocalypse, but I think there's a third way, because Peter is literally saying, I think we can avoid the biblical apocalypse by getting our politics right.
I mean, actually, we're kind of getting into Joseph Smith territory, right? Where you're like, I believe in the Bible, but also I'm adding stuff.
Yeah, I think we can rewrite the ending of the Bible.
And also, I need to have sex with your wife.
Yeah. It's weird, right? And especially because Peter describes himself as a little orthodox Christian, which, like, this is not anywhere close to orthodoxy, right? The idea that you're arguing God might let us avoid having an antichrist and an Armageddon and still live forever, that's not Christian theology. That's Peter Thielology.
You're right. That's like getting into, you're starting to found your own religion at that point, which, you know, he certainly has the resources to do.
That's I would argue what Act 17 is doing, is they are not spreading Christianity to Silicon Valley elites. They are creating a new, like a Mormonism for rich people.
They're hybridizing Christianity with like Silicon Valley billionaire culture.
Exactly.
Oh no. Now that's the Antichrist, the cursed child of two evil parents.
That is the antiest of Christ. And it is kind of weird to me. Part of what's strange is that, like, he wants to avoid the biblical apocalypse. And I think what that means is that Peter Thiel is so clearly scared of death that he can't even embrace everlasting life. Like, he vastly would prefer some scientist keeps his body alive than like Jesus ensures him eternal life in heaven.
He's like, I believe in you, God, but stay the fuck away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's fascinating.
It's the most reasonable thing that I've, theorized him thinking this whole time, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also it's like, it's this thing of like, because I do feel like if you look at sort of the sum of human experience, it's like, organized religion facilitates a lot of horror and a lot of evil. And it also facilitates a lot of structure and a lot of stability in people's lives. And I think one of the positive elements of it is the feeling of allowing yourself to not be in control and sort of believing in something, not even necessarily a higher power, like it's a 12 steps kind of a thing, although that certainly is helpful for a lot of people too, because the sort of like the ability to believe in something beyond yourself and to sort of maybe use religion to get out of the human urge towards solipsism. Yeah. It feels like this is like, no, I'm actually using religion to become more self-centered than ever. Isn't that great?
Yeah. And it's just like the idea that, you're so scared of death that you can't even the idea of heaven.
You can't even
it has to be avoided.
Angel.
We have to find a fix for that. Yeah.
Right. You'd rather be like
stuff.
A death becomes her.
Yeah.
Person just walking around getting hairline fractures and gluing yourself back together.
And again, Ross, who is a useless thinker and a useless writer and a waste of column inches for the New York Times, can't even question that. There's only one really valuable thing about the article that he writes interviewing Thiel, which is that it includes a fascinating segment where Peter talks about his early attempts to secure eternal life for himself.
Oh, boy.
And I'm going to read a long quote from the interview here.
Please do.
Peter, I remember 1999 or 2000 when we were running PayPal. One of my co-founders, Luke Nosek, he was into Alcor and cryonics and that people should freeze themselves. And we had one day where we took the whole company to a freezing party. You know, a Tupperware party? People sell Tupperware policies. At a freezing party, they sell, and Ross butts in here, was it just your heads? What was going to be frozen? Thiel, you could get a full body or just a head. Ross, the just a head option was cheaper. Thiel, it was disturbing when the dot matrix printer didn't quite work, and so the freezing policies couldn't be printed out. Okay.
I miss dot matrix printers.
That's funny. I think a critical and thoughtful interviewer might have said something like, hey, it kind of seems like a lot of companies in the life extension space, like the guys who were selling you youthful blood to inject into your body, are like questionable and sketchy and maybe con men, has repeatedly encountering stuff that doesn't work or is sketchy, like Alcor not being able to make a printer work. Has any of that made you reevaluate whether or not you're just falling for a series of cons, like the old pharaohs of Egypt taking fucking strychnine or whatever to make themselves live forever? Or like, are you still good? You still following all that? Like, Ross doesn't ask this at all.
No.
Instead, when Peter talks about how this cryonics company couldn't even get a printer to work, Ross nonsensically adds, technological stagnation once again, right?
No.
Which is like, no, that's not what that's an example of at all.
Yeah.
Period. But Peter responds, he kind of ignores Ross. But in retrospect, it's also a symptom of the decline, because in 1999, this was not a mainstream view, but there was still a fringe boomer view where they still believed that they could live forever. And that was the last generation. So I'm always anti-boomer. But maybe there's something we've lost even with this fringe boomer narcissism, where there were at least a few boomers who still believed science would cure all their diseases. No one who's a millennial believes that anymore.
I don't even know what that aside was about.
What is that even about? So you're anti-boomer because they thought they could live forever, but you can?
Yeah. Or just say more about what did it feel like to think about getting your head sawn off by these people? How much did just the head cost versus the body? Say more about that.
Exactly.
Would they give you someone else's limbs or put you on a big robot body like RoboCop?
Right. Yeah. So we're almost done here. I want to end by talking a little bit more about Rene Girard and Schmidt and some of Thiel's philosophical beliefs. But first, let's have an ad real quick.
Time for a sofa upgrade? Introducing Anabay Sofas, where designer style meets budget-friendly prices. Anabay brings you the ultimate in furniture innovation with a modular design that allows you to rearrange your space effortlessly. Perfect for both small and large spaces, Anabay is the only machine-washable sofa inside and out. Say goodbye to stains and messes with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics that make cleaning easy. Liquids simply slide right off. Designed for custom comfort, our high-resilience foam lets you choose between a sink-in feel or a supportive memory foam blend. Plus, our pet-friendly, stain-resistant fabrics ensure your sofa stays beautiful for years. Don't compromise quality for price. Visit washablesofas.com to upgrade your living space today. Sofas start at just $699 with no risk returns and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get up to 60% off, plus free shipping and free returns. Shop now at washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Hey, this is U.S. Olympic gold medalist Tara Davis Woodhull.
And I'm U.S. Paralympic gold medalist Hunter Woodhull.
As athletes, our lives are about having a clear path.
And a team that you can absolutely trust.
So when it came to getting the best mortgage,
we chose PennyMac.
PennyMac is proud to be the official mortgage provider of Team USA and you.
Learn more at pennymac.com. PennyMac Loan Services, LLC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS ID 35953. Licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act. Conditions and restrictions may apply.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Most people believe that childhood should be about curiosity, freedom, figuring out who you are, and even running a little bit wild. But for many kids living with medical challenges, the experience is more like hospital rooms, medical treatments, and rules about what's safe. That's why legendary actor and philanthropist Paul Newman founded Serious Fun, a network of medically supported camps and programs that give kids living with serious illnesses the chance to, as he put it, raise a little hell. At Serious Fun Camps, kids get to experience the thrill of flying down a zip line, participate in talent shows, sing songs around the campfire, and make lifelong friends who truly understand their journey. And thanks to skilled volunteer medical specialists and staff, every activity is tailored to each child's unique health requirements to ensure they have the experience of a lifetime. Best of all, camp is always free for campers and their families. This is where you come in. You can help deserving children experience the freedom and fun they never thought possible. To get involved, visit seriousfun.org. That's seriousfun.org.
All right, so we're back. And I talked up at the start about Carl Schmitt, who's the Nazi philosopher who discussed how to destroy democracies in a way that Peter Thiel followed, and Rene Girard, who is he's this big belief in sort of like this mimetic theory of like mimetic rivalry, right? Where like people, once they cover their basic needs, still want things, and so they kind of pick, well, what does this other guy who seems to be doing better than me have? Yeah. And that's kind of mimetic rivalry. But it doesn't make people happy, so they need scapegoats, you know? And Girard's attitude was like Christianity should have brought an end to that. It's certainly evidence that we need to bring an end to that. It's bad to scapegoat groups of people. And Christ was kind of like, that's why he was killed, right? He was made into a scapegoat. And that's like the final evidence that it's wrong to do that. You know, that's Girard's attitude. Peter claims to be a major follower of Girard's, and he's gone to a bunch of gatherings. And in fact, in 2004, he and one of his mentors organized a week-long seminar on Rene Girard at Stanford. And they invited Girard, who was alive at the time, and they also invited a scholar of Carl Schmitt, who was also like a peer of Rene Girard, named Wolfgang Paulhaver, who is... Paulhaver is one of Peter Thiel's favorite intellectuals.
That's a hell of a name.
It's quite a name. And Thiel is is a huge, big fan of this guy, and a major, cites him quite frequently and has invited him to a number of these different events, right? This 2004 seminar on Girard is right after Peter Thiel got rich, after he sold PayPal. So he funds this thing, and the theme of the conference is politics and the apocalypse. And that theme was suggested by Wolfgang Paulhaver, while they were planning the event. So this is obviously, it's a couple of years after 9/11, and people who are, what you'd call mimetic theorists, these folks who buy into a lot of Girard's beliefs about mimetic rivalry, are trying to figure out, was 9/11 an example of planetary mimetic rivalry? Did it come out of anger from one part of the world at all of the things that the West has that they don't have, which is very much kind of in line with a lot of what Bush was saying, not exactly, but you can see some people, they're jealous of our freedoms, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So kind of one of the questions that these Girard fans, these mimetic, theoreticians are talking about is that kind of does that explain what was going on there, or is there something else for us to take out of this? And Thiel's attitude was that the primary thing that 9/11 showed us is that the West can't protect itself. He wrote a paper right before this event in which he stated, "The brute facts of September 11th demand a re-examination of the foundations of modern politics. Today, mere self-preservation forces all of us to look at the world anew, to think strange new thoughts, and thereby to awaken from that long and profitable period of intellectual slumber and amnesia that is so misleadingly called the Enlightenment." And his big attitude here is that, Osama bin Laden is thinking rationally in a modern political sense, but the West is not. Right? And we haven't realized the actual nature of the fight. And if Carl Schmitt were in charge of things, our response to 9/11, the just response, would be to call for a crusade against Islam. Right?
Of course.
That's the rational response.
Yeah, it's very rational to try and eradicate a religion, I find, generally.
I mean, yeah, and that is literally Thiel's argument is that this is where this is the fundamental irrationality that the West indulged in, is not seeing it as a holy war, is not seeing it as a fundamental clash of civilizations. We didn't do that enough, which we did. The people you would have supported then, George W. Bush, that is how they framed it, and it failed.
That's very much how Alan Jackson was describing the situation. It's again, he's really recommending antichristy behavior. We must say. I also realize I keep saying it like antipasto, but
and I think that's the right way to say.
What if it was delicious?
Yeah. What if the Antichrist tasted better?
Yeah. What if there were some olives?
But was less filling at the same time.
Just a nice cold snack on a summer's day,
right?
When you've got pasta coming later.
Yeah, like a Montucky cold snack. Yes, exactly. So Wolfgang, Peter is a huge fan of him specifically because of how Wolfgang interpreted a lot of Carl Schmitt's writing and some essays that he wrote on what Carl Schmitt meant and kind of his how his concept of the political functioned. And that's what he bases a lot of his like, well, we're doing the wrong things after 9/11 on, is his ideas of like how Schmidt would have handled things instead. And I want to quote from an article in Wired, kind of summarizing this journey. It would quickly become apparent that Thiel had spent some time considering the paper Palaver presented the day the two men met in 1998. The strange new thoughts Thiel wanted his audience to entertain were, it turned out, largely those of Carl Schmitt. But where Palaver had been repulsed, Thiel extolled Schmidt's robust conception of the political, in which humans are forced to choose between friends and enemies, and everything else is delusion. The high point of politics, Palaver quotes Schmitt as saying, are the moments in which the enemy is, in concrete clarity, recognized as the enemy. In Thiel's mind, Osama bin Laden was capable of this kind of politics. The West, with its fetish for individual rights and procedures, was not. So Palaver is quoting Schmitt as being like, this guy believed that the high point in politics was the defining of an enemy, right? And getting a group of people, getting a community to recognize an enemy. And that's a lot of, I mean, that's where Schmitt kind of goes in with Girard, is they both had this concept of like scapegoating as being important, but Schmitt is like, this is how you gain power. This is actually how you destroy democracy, is by finding an enemy, defining them as not part of the community, and excising them. Yeah. And then you continually push that barrier.
And if you don't do that, you're a moron.
Right.
Yeah.
And Palaver is saying that's what Schmitt believed because he was bad, right? And that's like, that's an awful thing to believe, but like this is what Schmitt was advocating. And Thiel is like, no, that's awesome. And Palaver, like their relationship over the last 20 years has been Palaver gradually realizing Peter Thiel likes him because he describes accurately what a monster believed, and Peter Thiel is the same kind of monster. Yeah.
What a fun day at Stanford.
It's awesome. To continue from that Wired article, Schmitt, Thiel conjectured, would have responded to 9/11 by calling for a holy crusade against Islam, but the West was instead slipping beyond politics altogether. Thiel seemed to fear towards the creation of a bland, world-embracing economic and technical organization. This was Schmidt's nightmare scenario. In such a world, Thiel said, a representation of reality might appear to replace reality. Instead of violent wars, there could be violent video games. Instead of heroic feats, there could be thrilling amusement park rides. Instead of serious thought, there could be intrigues of all sort, as in a soap opera. But that counterfeit reality, Thiel argued, would be just the brief harmony that prefigures the final catastrophe of the apocalypse, the harmony, in Schmidt's telling, of the antichrist. Thiel's discussion of Schmitt didn't mention the Hitler or the Nazis once.
Irrelevant. Who cares?
Great. Yeah, why does it matter that this guy was a Nazi and arguing for Nazis? And what matters is that we need to take his idea about picking an enemy. And it's actually a really bad thing if, like, people are playing video games instead of fighting in real wars. That, like, that is the path to the Antichrist. Like, we're replacing the real heroism with fictional heroism. It's a very fascist idea. It's fundamentally a very fascist idea.
So basically, he's like, yeah, like, if we don't become fascists, we're going to... we have to become fascists to protect ourselves from the Antichrist, sweetie.
Yeah. And... kind of the conclusion Thiel draws from Palaver's writing about Schmitt is that, because Schmitt fundamentally suggested, like, we have to have these dramatic solutions to the problem, like, to deal with the enemy. Like, we have to purge them, we kill them, right? He's a Nazi, right? Thiel pulls back from that, but his solution is you have to fortify the modern West, and you can't do that through democracy, right? So you have to hide, you have to trick people into it in order to get around democratic institutions, because those aren't going to, like, you can't actually work through them. So I'm going to quote from Thiel directly. Instead of the United Nations, filled with interminable and inconclusive parliamentary debates that resemble Shakespearean tales told by idiots, we should consider the secret coordination of the world's intelligence services as the decisive path to a truly global Pax Americana. In other words, what we need to do is develop
government.
Yeah, no. Just a one world surveillance super system controlled by Peter Thiel.
That's very
not
different.
A one world government. No. We do need, Thiel says, a political framework that operates outside the checks and balances of representative democracy. But that's not a one world government, right?
Right.
It's just a surveillance state that I'm in charge of, you know?
So basically he's saying it would be terrible if somebody did the things that I want to do myself. It has to be me.
Right. Exactly.
God.
Yeah, it's awesome. You know, there's that Wired article does a really good job of talking about Palaver's kind of dawning horror as he realizes that, like, he's been reading all these old papers of mine about Schmidt, but interpreting them as like, this guy's awesome and I want to do all the things he's suggesting.
It's like when Oliver Stone realized all these guys were getting into finance because they loved his movie that they never saw the last quarter of, apparently. Yeah.
And it's been like Girardians in general, like people who are like are followers of Rene Girard in his intellectual tradition, have like, this has been kind of a growing horror for a lot of them. I think that probably should have started earlier, because like it has often been said that Rene Girard was kind of the inventor of the like button on Facebook, for good reason, because Peter Thiel has justified him betting on Facebook by saying, quote, I bet on mimesis, right? Like on mimetic, this idea that like mimetic rivalry is the underpinning of Facebook, right? It's the underpinning of social media. I'm going to both people being jealous and wanting to imitate the lives of other people that they see on, right? And so people have been saying since the early 2000s that like Girardian philosophy is kind of baked into a lot of the most toxic stuff about social media. But what really fucked a lot of these people up is kind of more recently, because when they saw JD Vance during the 2024 election start lying about Haitians, and like knowingly spreading like lies about like Haitians eating dogs and stuff, because this is classic scapegoating, right?
Yeah.
And this is, again, Girard was saying it's bad to do that. Vance, who calls himself a Girardian, is clearly just saying like, oh, Girard kind of explained how scapegoating works and I like that. Right?
It feels like reading a book on, or an article on child abuse and like the psychological effects that like beating your child has on them. And your takeaway is like, wow, if I beat my child, they're going to be a lot more obedient and do more chores. I'm going to do that. Hey, everybody, this article says you should beat your child. And the person who wrote it is like, what?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so like, I'll quote, like, here's, because Vance has directly stated that coming to understand Girard influenced his Christianity. Quote,
oh my God.
Yeah, he spoke of his theory of mimetic rivalry, that we tend to compete over the things that other people want, spoke directly to some of the pressures I experienced at Yale. But it was his related theory of the scapegoat and what it revealed about Christianity that made me reconsider my faith.
It made me realize that I could be a Christian and an absolute dickwad who didn't care about human beings or human suffering. And that was very inspiring to me.
Yeah, Girard's saying Christ was killed because he was turned into a scapegoat by these powers, you know, doing the thing that authoritarian monsters always do, which is create and destroy scapegoats to distract people from the fact that the system is unjust and making them unhappy. And Vance is like, yeah, this changed, like, the idea of Christ as a scapegoat made me realize that I could lie about Haitians to become the vice president. Like, that's basically what Vance is saying.
Oh, that's nice.
It's cool.
I think J.D. Vance could have had less education and would have been just fine.
Yeah.
Less access to education for one Apple action.
Right. To continue from that Wired article, for some Girardians, this was a breaking point. The mimetic theorist Bernard Perret lambasted Vance and his billionaire mentor in a French political journal, accusing them of casting a shadow over Girard's legacy. Within months, several more prominent Girardians followed suit. It's difficult to claim Girard, who fundamentally believes that violence is linked to exclusion, and at the same time accuse Haitians of eating dogs, Girardian scholar Paul Dumochet told a Canadian newspaper. Either you didn't understand Girard, or you're a liar.
I mean, when you put it that way.
And I guess this is where we'll kind of close, you know.
Calling the burn unit for Peter Thiel in this very satisfying little way.
And J.D. Vance, this little, I mean, fucking Palavers apparently emailed him a few times being like, how are you okay with this? You know, how is anyone okay with this?
Well, and it's like they may have way too much power and it may be horrifying to contemplate, but nothing will ever make them less idiotic than they clearly are. And there's something nice about that. It's scary, but at least we can feel superior.
Yeah, there's a good bit at the end of that Wired piece where I think Palaver kind of reveals that he has Thiel's number. What I've observed are traces of deep fear, he told me. Fear of death, fear of terrorism, And it all comes down to a lack of trust and a craving for security, Palaver suspects. There are so many cases where he expresses fears and concerns and a need for protection, Palaver says. And if your main thing is seeking protection, you play with fire. And I guess that's
it's like
kind
Beavis
of where,
and Butthead.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and I would say Peter can recognize that fears of the apocalypse and the end of days could allow an antichrist to take power, but doesn't understand that in his own life, your own fear of that is leading you to embrace what is effectively the antichrist, right? You're so scared of dying that you are embracing apocalyptic, like, just extremely dangerous. You're playing with fire. You are embracing authoritarianism. You are welcoming the antichrist in because you're so scared of death.
And there you go. And because you're so rich, everyone else has to welcome the Antichrist along with you, apparently.
And none of your weird, like, hoax medicine attempts to extend your life have proven to work. And you're just going to blame Greta Thunberg by saying she's anti-science because you can't just acknowledge that the thing you wanted is something that rich, powerful people have always wanted and never gotten because it's impossible. And you're no different from the pharaohs. And
they're never going to get it.
Nope. Yeah. Nope. You will die and be forgotten too.
And that's kind of nice.
It's good. It's good. That's why I'm fundamentally optimistic because of death, right? I think it's a good thing in the long run that people die and that we're never going to, like, immortality is not real. And I don't think it ever will be.
Right. None of these people are ever going to be around forever. And a lot of them are going to, like,
nothing will be.
Choke on a bit of toffee or something. And
sure.
Not enough of them, but
No, not enough. But something will get all of them, like it will everyone. And that's good. It's good that people die. If someone actually created an immortality cure, I would want to stop that. I think that's broadly, I don't think it's possible. It's a silly thing to even theorize, but it's bad. It would be bad if it was real.
Well, and also, like, even if that did exist, it would only exist for, like, the worst people in the world,
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And it would be the end of progress, fundamentally, if, like, people stopped dying, like, that's just, it's not even good theoretically.
Yeah.
People get angry whenever I bring this up, where they're like, so you don't want to cure cancer? I'm like, if you cure cancer, people will still die. You won't cure cancer also, but, like...
Also, there's, like, 8 million cancers to cure. You just pick one and just keep going until you got a bingo.
No, I believe if we were to cure all of the current cancers, then we would start seeing different weird cancers that people don't get right now because they just don't live long enough for them to happen, but we'll keep experiencing new cancers.
You just start getting the, like, biblical patriarch 800-year-old guy cancer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, it's like, think about how bored people are now and how much more bored we would be if we were immortal,
Yeah. Again, that's the thing. And that's the thing Gerard, like, that's kind of something Gerard was dealing with, is like this, when people's needs are met and they're still unhappy. Like,
God, imagine the trouble we would cause for each other if we lived forever.
Yeah. How much worse mimetic rivalry would be. Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, anything else?
Well, thanks for telling me about someone so horrible and embarrassing that I have come around to your moral of, well, let's embrace death because at least he's going to get that guy. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love
let's embrace death. Like, let's all cheer death on as it goes after Peter Thiel.
Death wielding a sickle like a polo mallet, galloping towards another billionaire.
Yeah. Exactly. And let's all encourage Peter Thiel to explore the ocean floor like those other guys.
I hear there's a lot of good stuff still down there. You could find those other guys. You could bring up their vaporized remains.
You could save them. They're all, they need to be rescued. They're all still down there.
They're playing Parcheesi.
Only you, Peter. Only you can save them.
With Poseidon.
Yeah.
The Antichrist is down there.
Pluggables before we roll out here?
Yeah. You can find me at my show You're Wrong About, where we talk about the folly of man and iconic bimbos and misunderstood history and all kinds of fun stuff. And also at my new show, The Devil You Know, which is from CBC Podcasts. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts, and it's about the satanic panic and also all the horrible things that people do and use Satan as an excuse to do, which is, of course, very relevant to today. And it's we got to talk to some amazing people, and I'm so happy to get to share their stories with everybody.
I'm happy too, both for that and because the episode is over. And so I get to not work anymore. All right, everybody.
Yeah.
You stop working too. I don't care what you're doing. If you're a heart surgeon listening to this, stop, walk away. Walk away.
Jesus Christ.
Are you raising a bridge? Get out of there. Pilot, jump out of the plane, Put on your backpack with the thing in it and get out of there. Everyone quit working right now. Whatever thing you're doing.
That'll be fine.
Yeah.
Whatever Robert Antichrist Evans says.
There we go.
If you're the Antichrist, stop Antichristing this minute. Get a foot bath going.
I would be such a good Antichrist. Yeah, but unfortunately, Greta Thunberg took the job from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty good too.
Yeah.
The podcast is over.
Behind the Bastards is a production of Cool Zone Media. For more from Cool Zone Media, visit our website, coolzonemedia.com, or check us out on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Behind the Bastards is now available on YouTube. New episodes every Wednesday and Friday. Subscribe to our channel, youtube.com/@BehindTheBastards.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabric. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Shop WashableSofas.com for up to 60% off site-wide, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Most people believe that childhood should be about curiosity, freedom, figuring out who you are, and even running a little bit wild. But for many kids living with medical challenges, the experience is more like hospital rooms, medical treatments, and rules about what's safe. That's why legendary actor and philanthropist Paul Newman founded Serious Fun, a network of medically supported camps and programs that give kids living with serious illnesses the chance to, as he put it, raise a little hell. At Serious Fun camps, kids get to experience the thrill of flying down a zip line, participate in talent shows, sing songs around the campfire, and make lifelong friends who truly understand their journey. And thanks to skilled volunteer medical specialists and staff, every activity is tailored to each child's unique health requirements to ensure they have the experience of a lifetime. Best of all, camp is always free for campers and their families. This is where you come in. You can help deserving children experience the freedom and fun they never thought possible. To get involved, visit SeriousFun.org. That's SeriousFun.org.
This is Jacob Goldstein from What's Your Problem? Business software is expensive, and when you buy software from lots of different companies, it's not only expensive, it gets confusing, slow to use, hard to integrate. Odoo solves that because all Odoo software is connected on a single affordable platform. Save money without missing out on the features you need. Odoo has no hidden costs and no limit on features or data. Odoo has over 60 apps available for any needs your business might have, all at no additional charge. Everything from websites to sales to inventory to accounting, all linked and talking to each other. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
Flag football is exploding, and iFlag is leading the way. As the Guinness World Record holder, iFlag hosts premier flag football tournaments nationwide for boys, girls, high school girls, and adults. From first-time players to elite competitors, iFlag delivers top-level competition, unforgettable experiences, and a community built around the game. Ready to be part of it? Join the movement. Find your tournament and learn more at iflag.org. That's iflag.org.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.